remember last time on Wednesday, I got you guys working on this, which it was your dynamic programming, which is a way to take a problem. In this case, what's the problem? What's the best alignment between Nina and Nina? That is the big problem. And it's a big problem because if you're going to do the naive method, you would do every combination of all mismatches or all gaps, or some gaps, some mismatches, some matches. So there would be so many different combinations to then score. And the dynamic alignment is this table that you make, and you assign scores for each of these little squares. And each of those scores is the solution to a sub-problem. And the sub-problems that we are addressing are what is the match or mismatch score between an N and an N? So an N and an N are a match. And then you go on the Blossom 62 table and you see what's the score for a match. What's the score for an N and I mismatch? You go on the table. So the first thing you're doing is how many points do I get rewarded if this amino acid matches that? And how about if we don't agree on things, we are a mismatch? How bad of a mismatch are you? You know, are these two amino acids all hydrophobic? Then it's not so bad. Is it a large amino acid and a small amino acid? Then you're really not compatible. So when we look at the Blossom 62 table, it is empirically calculated how often one amino acid substitutes the other. And if they're very different, the substitution doesn't happen often, and maybe it means that whenever that substitution happened, then the protein was less stable and didn't do what it needed to do, and the organism died. It could be that, or it could be that that substitution just hasn't happened. Maybe it would be a beneficial substitution. Okay, so the sub-problems we're solving. We are looking up the match and mismatch. And the second thing we're doing is, okay, we get the Blossom score for each of these. I put in a little corner. And then I figure out, do I accumulate more points for each of these if I go diagonally or if I go down or across? So those are the two questions we are asking. The point for mismatch and how do I end up in that square? And the diagonal, this is the part that even if you say, I don't want to do this in the exam, well, there will be a question that you're not actually doing this, but I'm asking you, what does going diagonally mean? And then what would be the score of this one diagonal that I ask you? And you're supposed to say the diagonal is that you either have a match or you are accepting a mismatch. The other answer to that is you're not introducing a gap. You're not assuming that there's an indel there. Okay, so let me show you from Wikipedia, if in case you're like, okay, I need somewhere else to read about this. Yeah, the gap is if you go horizontal or vertical. Then if you go one way or the other, it depends on which of the two strings you are inserting the gap. So I'm going to show you some animation from Wikipedia of this process happening. And it's pretty fast, so you won't be able to pick up in every detail, but I'll show it to you once, just so that you see how, when the process is being done, what happens to it. And like I said, you're not going to pick up on the details now, but I'm going to try to like narrate each part. Let's see, no, I mean, this one. Yeah, okay. So I looked up Smith Waterman. I guess there you go. I got rid of it. So the part, and I got here because I wanted to see the names of the guys. Anyway, that was like my hunting for that information. Okay, this is the end, which is the trace back. Once you already filled out the whole table, and this they're showing you when you are coding how you do. Okay, so initial conditions, set everything to 0. And here you are going every row, and then like, in the end, you find on this corner the highest score, and then you're going to trace back. Remember I told you it's like Hansel and I cannot remember the Hansel and Gretel, whatever that. It's like they're in the forest here, and then they need to go back home. Watch what's happening on the alignment here. What they're doing is you're taking these strings and seeing, are they matches or are they gaps? So let's, when it plays again, let's hope that you can see where is a gap. It's bad, I don't think I can pause this, but like watch this part. Okay, match, match, gap. So see gap, it went up, and then every time it's diagonal is a match. So if you're like, okay, I want to look at this some more, you just go on Wikipedia with Smith-Waterman algorithm, and it will show to you the steps. And I also have that on the same strings, but an example of doing this on a PowerPoint slide. So then it will be easier for you to see it more slowly. Let's see. Yeah, okay. So let me show you the answers to this, so that maybe you'll become clearer the part on the traceback. There's the exercise. I think this is it. Yeah. So, and the way you do that is you write Nina and Nina in here. Doesn't matter which one goes where. Is it sharing? Yeah, it should be sharing. Yeah. And then you put the initial conditions to 0. Remember, that's the Smith-Waterman. We just put the zeros in here. And with the Needleman-Wunsch, then you will see that only this is 0, and these become more negative. And what that does is that if you don't align the first two, because if these two align, then you went from 0, you went to this way. But if you're like, no, these two don't align, I'm going to skip the first few, then these guys become increasingly negative for the other one. So for local alignment, the Smith-Waterman, you set everything to 0, and then you look at the Blossom 62 scores, and then you see what's the score for each match. So this is just a summarized version of Blossom 62. And then you calculate the score for each of them. So in here, I'm showing you, when you go over all of them, you end up in here. And typically, this is where you're going to start to trace back, unless there's some other score over here that is higher. And then the last few letters would be gaps. So in this specific alignment, there are two possibilities. Okay, this is a bad possibility, as in when you go 6, 8, whatever, that adds up to fewer than if I went 15, 11, 16, whatever, and or 12, 14, that and that. So this is actually showing you an alignment that the score is the same for both of these, if I added this right, but we know that this one is a better alignment. So for my PhD, I used computer software to do alignments, but then I would go back and hand align, meaning I would move stuff around to make the alignment a better one. So a lot of time that, anyway, it felt like it was worth it at the time. Now, how do you do the alignment from here? It's the traceback thing. So let's do the red one. So if this 15 came from diagonally, then that means that I accepted that A and A should align with each other, even if they were not the same letter, which is the case of the 12. Then so see how on the 12 I came here from going down. So then I'm saying that this guy here doesn't actually align with anything because there's a gap. Let's do the easier version first, the red one. So I ended up here on the 15 by coming diagonally, which means that I am saying that A does align with A. So A and A align. All right, now I am here. How did I end up here? going down, which means there's a gap somewhere. So the gap is for that H, because what happens is if I go up, the N and this N, they align with each other. So N and N align, and then the H is the one that doesn't get anybody because this N here is already married to this N here, and this N cannot also, okay, each letter can only match one, okay? So this N cannot also match H. So that's why there is that gap there. That's the Oriental. And it corresponds to this going vertically. You don't have to memorize this. You just look which letter already matched something else. And then if I go diagonally or vertically, then there is a gap somewhere, and figure out where does the gap go, here or here. And all right, then you're here, and if you go diagonally, you'll see that that means that this matched this, and then diagonally this letter matched that letter, and since I came here diagonally, this matched that. Okay, as I said, what do you need to know for exam? It is how are these scores calculated? What does the going diagonally mean? What does going vertically or horizontally mean? And you're going to do a very small version of this if you want for bonus points. It's probably going to be a 2x2 because I need you to at least traverse a very small table. But if it's like, no way, that's way too much time, that's fine. Leave that question for last. If you have extra time, you do it. And you're like, okay, Dr. T, I want to get those points, or maybe I have fun doing that. I actually enjoyed doing this. Everybody, to each its own. So I'm giving you examples. So here you can align great and greet. You can align, here the answers, when you're like, I want to know. And here with each of these 3 possibilities, how did I end up? And here I marked something in red to draw attention to the fact that if I was here on the 16 and I went horizontally, I opened a gap here, so -6, I got a 9. But if I open a gap, I'm not opening a gap, I'm extending a gap, then it's -1. Anyway, like as I said, this is not mandatory. This is maybe fun, maybe a way to fall asleep, who knows, it's your call. Then like more things that if you want to align, but all right, good.